At some point or another, I'm sure we've all dreamed of hopping into a time machine and being able to peer into the depths of the ancient past, to travel freely and see the many episodes of humanity and its civilizations that proliferated through the ages, to be able to see with our own eyes how it all really played out. Likewise, I'm sure many have entertained the idea of being the one to discover a lost city, one completely forgotten and subsumed by the ravages of time, to uncover its secrets, its hidden treasures, and its vast repositories of lost knowledge. Could the legends be true? Is it possible that the lost city of Atlantis really did flourish and achieve a level of advancement that rivals our own? Are the legends of lost continents like Mu and Lemuria not merely the work of occultist fiction, but were completely and utterly destroyed in a cataclysm of unimaginable intensity? Indeed, if these theories were to be true, what would remain today? Fragments of their existence may linger in our subconscious, available to us in the form of myth and parable. Even if the source is legitimate, as the story of Atlantis was passed down to Plato, we may still come to view it simply as an allegory, a fictional story that only serves to enlighten us on a basic moral truth about human nature. Answers to some of these questions may have been given to a prolific clairvoyant in the early 20th century, a man who could heal the sick, read into people's past lives, and predict the future with a high degree of accuracy. His name was Edgar Cayce, and he was known as the Sleeping Prophet because he would literally speak prophecies as he slept. From a very early age, Cayce's father realized that there was something truly special about his son. In the spring of 1889, Edgar Cayce was reading his Bible in his hut in the woods, when he was approached by an angelic being that asked him what he wanted most of all in life. Frightened as he was, he told the angelic woman that he wanted to help people, especially sick children. She told him that his prayers had been answered, and it turns out this wouldn't be the last time he would see her. At the age of 12, Cayce was studying for a spelling test, and his father became upset at his failure to focus and memorize the words. He threw him off his chair in frustration, and Cayce heard the voice of the woman explain that they could help if he fell asleep. As he lay his head on his spelling book and drifted into sleep, upon waking, he was miraculously able to recite every word in the book. From this moment on, he studied all of his school books this way and quickly became the brightest student in his class. As the years went on, Cayce's popularity grew immensely, and he would soon become one of the most well-known psychics in history. The waitlist to receive a reading from Cayce would take months. He would rarely accept payments for his services and treated everyone equally. It didn't matter if you were the average Joe or the vice president. You couldn't bribe him to get in any sooner. Interestingly, it was in fact the vice president Henry Wallace himself that had a reading scheduled, but unfortunately Cayce passed away before it could happen. If you remember from one of my previous videos, Henry Wallace was one of the guys who helped fund Nicholas Rorick's expedition to the inner Earth city of Shambhala. Edgar Cayce went on to become a prophetic seer of many things. Among many of his readings were detailed descriptions of Atlantis, where no less than 700 references to the lost city can be read online on his organization's website. In the ethereal realm where the celestial and terrestrial realms converge, lies an enigmatic library of infinite knowledge, a cosmic archive known as the Akashic Records. Believed to house the record of all universal events, thoughts, words, emotions, and intent ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future in terms of all entities and life forms. It is from this source that Cayce claimed to have access. It is a concept that derives from the Sanskrit word akasha, meaning ether, and was introduced to the West by the teachings of the Theosophical Society in the late 19th century. This Buddhist concept can be equated to the Book of Life that is mentioned in the Bible. As Edgar Cayce lay in an unconscious trance, he was asked about his past lives. He believed that in one of his past lives, he was a priest in ancient Egypt around the epoch of the 11th millennium BC. It was at this time, he recounts, that witnessed the cataclysmic sinking of the Atlantean civilization. Swarms of refugees and survivors from the event migrated into pre-dynastic Egypt and sought to memorialize and preserve the memory of this once great kingdom. In a 1932 remote viewing session, Cayce claimed that the Atlanteans created two separate archives of their history after the Great Flood. He went on to say that one of them could be found in a hidden chamber underneath the Sphinx, accessible via a passageway below its front right forepaw. This forgotten repository of knowledge, which allegedly contains the entire history of the human race, likely including civilizations such as Mu, Atlantis, Lemuria, and Thule, would become known as the Hall of Records. Fantastic as it all sounds, claims of hidden chambers and passageways beneath the Giza plateau do not originate from Cayce alone. Although many times he claimed to have little or no previous knowledge of the subject matter, we can find the earliest descriptions of these mysterious tunnels from Herodotus in the 5th century BC. During his expedition to Egypt, Herodotus claimed he was shown the legendary underground labyrinth of Giza. In his foundational work titled The Histories, Herodotus writes, quote, "There I saw 12 palaces regularly disposed, which had communication with each other, interspersed with terraces and arranged around 12 halls. It is hard to believe they are the work of man. The baffling and intricate passages from room to room and from court to court were an endless wonder to me, as we passed from a courtyard into rooms, from rooms into galleries, from galleries into more rooms, and thence into yet more courtyards. The roof of every chamber, courtyard, and gallery is, like the walls, of stone. The walls are covered with carved figures, and each court is exquisitely built of white marble and surrounded by a colonnade. Near the corner where the labyrinth ends, there is a pyramid, 240 feet in height, with great carved figures of animals on it, and an underground passage by which it can be entered. I was told very credibly that underground chambers and passages connected this pyramid with the pyramids at Memphis." Elaborating further on these subterranean chambers, Herodotus continues, quote, "This I have actually seen, a work beyond words. For if anyone put together the buildings of the Greeks and display of their labors, they would seem lesser in both effort and expense to this labyrinth. Even the pyramids are beyond words, and each was equal to many and mighty works of the Greeks. Yet the labyrinth surpasses even the pyramids." On separate occasions over the course of the following centuries, philosophers such as Strabo, Pliny the Elder, and Diodorus also spoke of an underground maze below the sands of Giza. While Edgar Cayce cannot be the primary source for locating the fabled Hall of Records, he can in fact be attributed to its date of discovery. By the same token, Cayce likewise asserted that the pyramids and Sphinx are most certainly thousands of years older than is conventionally assumed. He often referred to the Sphinx as the mystery of mysteries. During one of his prophetic trances, he was asked when the original construction began. He explained that it was all built over the course of 100 years, from 10,490 to 10,390 BC. This date is extremely significant for a number of reasons. We could spend an hour talking about why 10,500 BC is a pivotal time in history, but briefly, this is the time that Robert Bauval and others give to the date of construction for the Sphinx, as it coincides with several important astronomical alignments. It is also the date that the geologist Robert Schoch gives, due to the fact that the body of the Sphinx and the walls of its enclosure have significant water erosion. From around 14,000 to 6,000 BC, the Sahara was much greener and experienced frequent monsoon rainfalls. Robert Schoch estimates that the Sphinx bears evidence of thousands of years of rainfall. Furthermore, Cayce's date for the sinking of Atlantis is roughly 12,000 BC, and oddly enough, this lines up perfectly with the Younger Dryas period, which ended abruptly at around 11,500 BC, with mounting evidence that it was likely caused by comet impacts. We cannot be certain that Cayce didn't read Plato's Timaeus and Critias. At least this isn't something I was able to verify. Either way, it is this dialogue where Plato tells the New World the story of Atlantis for the first time. According to him, Atlantis sank 9,000 years before his time. This ends up putting the date of its demise at roughly 11,600 BC. Now that's a lot of interesting events and dates that strangely seem to line up pretty well, wouldn't you agree? Edgar Cayce also prophesied that the Hall of Records would be discovered and opened in the latter part of the 1990s. And as it so happened, it was in fact in 1993 that a seismic study of the area around the Sphinx using ground-penetrating radar was done with the Egyptologist John Anthony West and geologist Robert Schoch, PhD. What they discovered was just what Cayce predicted some 6 decades earlier, a hidden chamber with a tunnel leading into yet another, larger chamber. Is this the mythical Hall of Records that contains the irrefutable evidence for the lost city of Atlantis? Cayce's prophecy of the unveiling of this lost library in 1998 may have come to fruition, if it were not for the entire seismic survey being shut down from performing any further research. The Egyptian Minister of Antiquities, Dr. Zahi Hawass, is apparently not a fan of mysteries of this nature, and forcibly barred Schoch and West from any further study. We were so close. A hidden library containing the forgotten chapters of our past. I mean, come on. Why can't we just find out and see if it's really true? Sadly, the Egyptological orthodoxy is extremely dogmatic, and anything that may challenge the established narrative is deeply frowned upon, if not outright ridiculed and attacked. I mean, truly, if they really believe there's nothing to see there, then they should have no problem with letting us send a small robot equipped with a camera inside to see. This was the same method used to explore the shafts of the Great Pyramid in the 90s as well. But anyone that's spent any amount of time researching these topics will quickly realize that Egyptology and its Ministry of Antiquities is not a group of curious intellectuals ready to debate ideas they don't agree with. Rather, it is more like an authoritarian mafia with its Orwellian Ministry of Truth. Perhaps they are worried that what might be discovered inside would be the smoking gun evidence that absolutely would require us to rewrite the story of our past. Over the course of his life, Cayce performed over 14,000 readings, and one estimate determined him to have an accuracy of roughly 85%. They were all documented and are available online for anyone to read today. During his sessions, Cayce would answer questions on healing, reincarnation, dreams, Atlantis, and future events. He claimed that many of the Atlanteans that perished in its final days had reincarnated in America to help usher in the next golden age. The search for Atlantis has captivated countless researchers and explorers for literally thousands of years. There are many convincing and possible locations of the mythical city, such as the Azores Plateau, the Eye of the Sahara in Mauritania, or possibly somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean near the Strait of Gibraltar. Edgar Cayce, however, believed its location to be somewhere off the coast of the Bahamas, near the Bermuda Triangle. He described the Atlantean civilization as the golden age of humanity, enjoying a high level of technological advancement. far from a Bronze Age civilization, he claimed it possessed things like flying vehicles, air balloons, elevators, and a network of communication that might be comparable to ours. He explained that it was by use of giant crystals they were able to power their technologies. According to one of Edgar Cayce's visions, the Atlanteans preserved one of their flying vehicles within one of the underground chambers at Giza. Perhaps that's the reason we can find hieroglyphs of things that appear to depict helicopters and planes on the walls of some temples. Wouldn't that be something if true? One of his more notable predictions was that Atlantis would rise once again, its landmass becoming visible for all to see in the year 1968. Well, unfortunately, that one didn't come true. However, 1968 was the year that the mysterious Bimini Road was discovered. The Bimini Road, sometimes called the Bimini Wall, is an underwater rock formation located about 15 feet below the waters off the coast of Bimini Island. It's an interesting find for sure, and many believe to be not natural, and in fact an ancient roadway from Atlantis. Since its discovery, it is still being debated whether or not it's natural or man-made. It seems that a geological study in the mid-70s that took core samples of the stones proved it to be a natural formation. But still to this day, many highly credentialed researchers believe the stones appear to have been cut, and the horizontal arrangement of them is evidence that it cannot be completely natural. What do you think? While many of the predictions and prophecies of Cayce have come true, such as the predicting of World War II and the 1929 stock market crash, there are still many that are yet to be seen. And whether or not you believe in psychic abilities and remote viewing, I think we can all agree that Edgar Cayce was a great man that helped a lot of people. By the end of his life, as World War II was reaching its climax, he was performing so many readings a day that it began to take a toll on his health. He was warned that if he continued at this rate, it would kill him. But Cayce's desire to heal those in need was uncompromising, and he inevitably suffered a stroke. By the 1st of January, 1945, he predicted that he would be dead within 4 days. He died 2 days later. Regardless of some of his fantastical speculations, Edgar Cayce should be remembered. He truly did practice what he preached. He always encouraged those seeking help from him to be mindful of what they ate and to live a healthy lifestyle. On this subject, he says, quote, "Healing of the physical without the change in the mental and spiritual aspects brings little real help to the individual in the end." How true, because the mind and the body imprint and imitate each other. What we think, we become. What we become, we think. It's an insidious process that can predispose us to illness, or it can lead us to health. After all is said and done, the mysteries of Edgar Cayce's prophecies live on. Will we see the fabled Hall of Records opened and have its secrets revealed for all to see? Will archaeology ever find the lost city of Atlantis? Let me know your theories in the comments. And until next time, stay curious. Peace.